what did we get? Well, did we get, as a result of staying in the UK, did we get to stay in the EU? No. Did we get to develop our renewables industry? I mean, this one, perhaps it's because my family come from Caithness and we used to spend our holidays gazing at the Pentland Firth, which has the top 6 tidal stream sites in the whole of Europe, now unable really to get going to develop that industry because Westminster's just decided yet again it doesn't believe in renewables. So for the whole UK, including our key industries, we suddenly have a complete upset. And that, I wouldn't have thought, was supposed to be part of the deal if we did indeed have the most powerful devolved government in the world. How could that happen? Did we actually get any greater control over broadcasting? Did we get a Scottish 6? No. And I mean, here we are with the ludicrous nonsense of the past few days. I was in the Faroes, and even people were talking about this one, about the UK government deciding that any news that's broadcast in Scotland has somehow got to reflect the sort of national, and really how mistaken can people be with this? We are a nation, Britain is a state. So actually, we should agree to that. Yep, we'll reflect the national mood. We really will. We'll reflect the Scottish mood. But that's not what they mean. They mean that we have to keep reflecting a broken consensus we haven't voted for decades. And now, I mean, when the BBC was set up, the founding ideas was to educate, inform, and entertain. There was no talk way back in 1938. Even in those days of empire still, there was no talk of having to force one monolithic view down the throats of viewers in Scotland. But here we are today with the most powerfully devolved government in the world whose broadcasting system has to reflect someone else's priorities. How can that be right? I've got to keep the list here because the list of things that, we're meant to get, there's quite a few things here, actually. Have we got the frigates built in the Clyde yet? I don't know. I don't live in the Clyde. Maybe I missed that one. But, I mean, above all, this question of us having the world's most powerfully devolved government. I spent the last week, as some of you may know, in the Faroe Islands, which you may not realise, I'd never been before, are 18 little islands away between Shetland and Iceland, pretty well as isolated as you want to get. They've got a population of 49,000. That's probably Elaine's Facebook followers or Twitter or something like that, But seriously, that's the numbers we're talking about. And they have probably the world's most powerful government that's a devolved government. What happened in 1946, during the war, Denmark was occupied by the Germans, and a lot of their colonies got a bit restive. The Icelanders, fabulously barking folk, realized in 1944 they could go and nobody could stop them, so they did. They declared independence in 1944, they were off. The Faroese decided in 1946 to have a crack at the same thing, they just left it too late. The Danes were kind of, no, we're not letting everybody just disappear. So they made them have a referendum. It was 50.7% yes. And the Danes said that's not good enough. And actually there was a bit of swithering going on in the islands, and the net of it was that they were given, and there's a déjà vu moment for us now, they were given the world's most powerful devolved parliament. But do you know something? It probably is. They can raise their own taxes, and that's just as well, because they had a huge crash in 1992. They had to raise taxes, they had to cut spending, they had to be in control of those little cluster islands to make sure that they remained afloat, and they managed it. What else have they got? Well, they've got complete control of energy, so they've decided they will be energy self-sufficient by 2020, and unlike us, because of the control over energy by Westminster, they'll get there. What else have they got? Well, small things, like they've got their own airline. 49,000 people have got Atlantic Airways. It's not just that, they've got their 3 planes so they can go where they want, Norway, Iceland, Edinburgh, the sun. But it's better than that. They have fitted these jets with GPS, so their landings on the Faroes are 99% punctual. They have the same cloud and mist bank that sits over the Shetlands, as some of you may know, for June and July. And it means that Shetland landings are around 70%. But they've made it better because they can. They can decide to spend on it because they're not a stupid little periphery. So they've got this great little fleet of that. They've got their own language, which they've now made the main one that they teach in schools beside Danish. They've got their own university. 49,000 people have got their own university. They've got the world's best broadband. And that kind of, for anyone who lives in a situation where you're having to turn the television and everything off just to be able to switch your broadband on, that gars you great. But they've managed to fibre optic the entire cabling network, and they've now got 4G throughout the Faroes, 200 miles outside the Faroes, and 2,000 metres down. And how did they do that? Because the Faroes have their own telecoms regulator. So that telecoms regulator didn't do a crazy thing like our one did, like Ofcom did, where it let companies like BT say that they would give 75% coverage or even 95% coverage, knowing that the little people would always be the 5%, but they would never actually specify it so someone else could come in and do the job. So all the peripheries of Scotland are last. In fact, Scotland generally is last. And hopefully the Faroese, because we have a fibre optic cable coming right round, down through them, right down through Orkney, through Shetland, right down through Scotland, I'm hoping that the Faroese could be the ones to take over our broadband so we get 5G through the Faroes. 49,000 people. But I mean, the really astonishing thing about this is because they were effectively self-governing apart from foreign policy and defence, when Denmark decided to join the EU in 1972, the Faroese thought, we really don't fancy that because their whole economy depends on fishing. So they opted straight out. No argument, no, we'll think about whether we let you, no, well, all the seats at the table are taken. None of that. They just opted straight out. So they're sitting there again, this plucky little bunch, 49,000 people adrift in the North Atlantic, bordering the Arctic. They are not members of the European Union, and they are not members of the EEA, the one that Norway's in either, because Denmark occupies that slot too. So they're not members of anything. They're just sitting there on their own with the most efficient fleet in the world, the fastest broadband in the world, and a university for all their people. And strangely, their reproduction rate is something like 3 times Scotland's. So you might say, well, that's sort of an argument for having a very well-devolved parliament. Actually, no, they want to go for independence. 49,000 people in the middle of the North Sea, on a couple of little rocks, want to go for independence because? Well, because they can't get a seat in the Arctic Council. They care about how the future of that region develops. It matters too much to them to have someone from Denmark wheeled in who doesn't care, doesn't know. They can't have a seat in the Nordic Council. That matters to them for exactly the same reasons. They can't have a seat on the World Trade Organization. And I would like to see this lot doing a deal because they're pretty blooming canny. They want to have top seats everywhere. 49,000 people. And it's seeing things like this that really changes me each time and makes me come back so angry at what we are putting up with here. And realizing that, we need to have an appetite to run, as Elaine said, we need to have an appetite to run things ourselves. Because if I was going to tell you what the secret of the Faroes was, one of the secrets, they have 30 local councils. 49,000 people, 30 local councils. Scotland, 5.3 million people, 32 local councils. Now, this might seem completely irrelevant, but these folk have run the Faroes. Because that's the secret of the Nordic countries. They've always run themselves because they've always had the power at the grassroots. So I think, there's some things that we need to do to get Britishness, not just out of our formal political system, but out of here. Because if you think that a country runs well when it's run by a couple of people at the top, run by an elite, works when it's top down, works when it's one size fits all, it doesn't work. And the Nordics are the living embodiment of that. I can feel my voice is about to go, so I will. All I can say is, I'm still yes. Perhaps it's a more grounded love, but we'll get there. Thank you.